The Life Talk Show is about testimonies where you can listen to be inspired, encouraged, uplifted, and entertained. It's the life. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ashley Cotton, the host for the Life Talk Show, and thank you for joining us. Whether you're watching this live or the replay, I just want to say thank you for just taking some time out to enjoy and watching the Life Talk Show. As many of you already know, and then for those that are newcomers, this show is about testimonies. It's based off of the foundation scripture of which this show was found, which is Revelation 12:11. We overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. And so everybody has a testimony. Everyone has had some type of supernatural encounter with the Father through his son, Jesus Christ, or maybe you are just trying to figure out life and wondering what this walk is all about, what this relationship is all about. So I do invite different backgrounds of life, different people to come on to just share and give us a glimpse of what their relationship has been like with the Father. And so I think that when you hear it from the source's mouth, when you hear it from that actual person who had endured and actually went through it, no one can refute that. No one can ever say that you didn't go through that, because don't nobody know like God knows. And so just the very fact that, you come on here to share something personal and transparent and open, it really means a lot to me. And I'm definitely sure it means a lot to the Father when you are giving him glory and glorifying him in all that we have endured and went through. And so, of course, I always have a guest, Billie Ball. She's my guest. And so I'm going to introduce her to you by reading her bio. So Billie Ball is the owner of the DFW Academy of Cannabis Science since getting her certification after taking the first set of classes in August of 2018. She is the owner, operator of the Academy along with her husband. Seeing a need for a different way to live and learn, the need for more education and information in the industry, Billie and her husband formed We Educate Global and are the proud owners as well as founders since July of 2020, focusing on getting people industry knowledge, getting people into the industry with jobs and internships, and forming a family community of support, encouragement, love, and success. WEG will not only focus on hemp and cannabis education, farming, health benefits, etc., but also cryptocurrencies, marketing, social media, podcasts, production, and more to guide people to the path they want to follow. Before this, Billie spent many years in the service industry and being a single mom after a coma and amputation in 2008 due to a spider bite. She got a job with the Texas Rangers and worked her way up to tour manager. After 9 years with the Rangers, she researched the cannabis industry and all the good it can provide to people in terms of health benefits and giving job opportunities to those so inclined. She believes education is the key to expanding this industry and getting those normally looked over an industry to call their own. Up until the spider bite and coma, Billie's relationship with God was part-time, desperately praying when things were bad or not going her way and thinking she had everything under control and was in control when things went good. During her coma, she died twice and was given the choice to stay with him or return, and what a choice. She is different person. God, why can't I read today? She is a different person. Jeez. More full of God and his love and less full of herself. She sees God every day in everything and clings to him in good, bad, ugly, and knows this is all because of him. So let's welcome Billie Ball to the Life Talk Show. Okay, Billie. Now, we talked a little bit, behind the scene before we went live, and I've been trying to get you to come on to the Live Talk Show. since the fall of last year in 2020, when I was leaving the office and you were standing in a parking lot.
Yep.
And you came over to me because I was getting ready to go. And you said, you are such a beautiful person. You have such a beautiful spirit about you. And we just began to talk and just build a rapport. And when you told me about your testimony, and you was like, what is it that you do? And I said, I host the live talk show and everything. And you was like, I have such a testimony. And then you told me about the spider bite. So we're going to dive right into that because I love to read books on the supernatural. I like to read books about heaven and what it's like and everything. I even have my fire rapid questions about that. And so I want to hear from you. So let's start from the very beginning where the spider bite happens. And of course, I want you, as we go along, I want you to dive more into the CBD. Is that the CBD industry that you are involved in and what you're doing? Because I just want clarification on that, especially for the kingdom, for people to have an understanding. So go ahead, Billie. I'm going to turn it over to you because I want to know everything there is to know.
We're about to get into it, girl. So it was June 4th, 2008. I got up, got my daughter ready for school. It was her last day of school. She was going on summer break. She was going to spend some time with her grandparents. I'm kind of a loner, I work, I do my thing. I kind of keep to myself, and that plays into this. But took her to school, dropped her off, knew that she was going to go to her grandparents for a little bit, and I actually went out that night with some friends of mine, and I noticed the bottom of my middle toe was stinging. It was itching. Didn't quite know what it was. I was like, I'll get it when I get home. So I get home, get in the bathtub, and I thought it was a bee sting, like a bee had stung me, or maybe an ant, because there was a fang in the bottom of my middle toe. So, you're in the bathtub, you're doing one of these numbers, trying to figure out what it is. I cleaned it, cleaned my whole body. At this time also, I'd been fired from a job I really, really loved, being an assistant restaurant manager at a golf course, because I wouldn't sleep with my married Venezuelan boss. And so, yes, that was another thing. This fool I would see him next to my apartment. He would follow me home. So anyway, didn't sleep with my married Venezuelan boss, and he fired me. And it's whatever. So at the time, I'm also looking for a job. I had a 93 Crown Victoria at the time, which was about as big as a 18-wheeler. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to work on it with my father-in-law, so I've got a lot going on. And so a few days later, I noticed my foot was swollen. It was aching. There's a little discharge from the bottom of the toe. And I was like, no big deal. Took another bath, washed everything. Then I realized that I wasn't able to walk on my foot. I was like, it must be really infected. But, single mom, don't have a job, trying to get my car together, trying to get my life together, and don't have money to go see a doctor. And, I'm old school. I grew up in a small town, unless something was broken, you did not go to a doctor. And so I continued to look for a job, took my car to get it worked on, borrowed a friend's crutches so I could get around, because I just absolutely could not walk anymore.
Yeah.
It had been probably about a week by this time. Timeline starts to get a little fuzzy around there. All I know is my hospital bracelet says I went into the hospital June 23rd. So I got bit June 4th, and I went into the hospital June 23rd. But they said when they found me in my apartment, it was my ex-father-in-law. When he found me, I was passed out, and I was surrounded by, you could tell I'd taken 2-liter soda bottles and filled them with water. They were surrounding me. Benadryls were surrounding me. Empty bottles of Tylenol and Advil were surrounding me, because I was in so much pain. And I remember, this is one of the last things I remember before waking up in the hospital, is just laying on the ground and just asking God if this was it, if he was going to take me, to just take care of my daughter and just take me. I felt pretty worthless at the time. And, I felt like I wasn't one of his best creations. And it was, just go ahead and take me, let the world.
Billie, did you fall into depression because of all the circumstances, or was this all due to the fact that you were trying to heal your spider bite?
it was everything. I was depressed because of the job situation, and being a single mom is hard, and
Yeah.
um, this was, like I said, it was one of the last memories I think before I slipped off into the coma. And I think, looking back, the devil wants you. The devil wants you just as much as God wants you. And when your thinking goes south, and he starts infecting your thoughts and your way of life, and you become weak, it's easier for him to get in there and make you believe these horrible things,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, I remember just laying there, and I wasn't thinking that the devil was getting me. I was just wanting God to take me, because I was like, well, obviously can't provide for my daughter. I can't even get my car fixed. I don't have a job. It's this day to day humdrum stuff that I later realized day to day is the way to live. That's the way he wants you to live. And I just didn't know if I was doing a good enough job for her and for him. And I was
Yeah.
like, let's just cut our losses, and take me.
Yeah.
If that's what it is, let's just do this. Let's just go. And so they told me when I came out of the coma that I was probably in a coma for about a week and a half in my apartment. Like my body had just shut down to protect itself. Um, so I get into the hospital, and there was two sides of it. There was the physical stuff I was going through, and then there was the internal stuff that I was going through. Because some of the physical stuff, this guy I used to date, oh my God, it was one of those things. He was a bad choice in my life, but he was an
Mm.
easy choice. He was there, and it was just easy to always go back to. Well, anyway, this fool decides to come into my hospital room. I've got tubes coming out of every possible orifice. I've got lines coming out everywhere. And he decides to hop on top of me on my bed and start being like, "You can't die. We're supposed to be together." The people who told me were like, "We had to drag this fool out of here. He had lost his mind." Well, because of things like that happening, so my body, I was in a coma. I had developed sepsis. My muscles started to atrophy. Of course, they're trying to save my foot and do like little bitty amputations. Let's see what else has happened. Oh, my kidneys shut down. So my kidneys shut down. So that was some of the physical things that were going in. So another story is my mother and my ex-in-laws. Let's just say they didn't get along all that well, because the doctor would come in and tell my mom every day, "Go ahead and get her a plot in a coffin." My mother is from Louisiana, okay? She got some Cajun in her, and she's got it's an Indian tribe called Cushata, which means angry Cajun, basically. And so she's that. And you don't go in and tell her that. My mother, from what I understand, because remember I'm in a coma, got
Right.
escorted out of the emergency room in the ICU at least 3 times by the police, because she would go out there and jack that doctor up and be like, "You don't know what God has planned for my baby. Go in there and fix her. Go
I'm
make."
telling you, you listen, you need some people that are faith
Uh-huh.
and be like, no, absolutely not. We're not going with what the doctor says. We going with what God said.
Exactly. So I'm so, and I had people that I hadn't seen in years. I used to teach dance to like little kids, and I would have people that I hadn't seen in years come and sit by my bed and sing me songs and read me the Bible, and I vaguely remember that in the coma, like it was like, here I am doing my thing in the coma, and here's this beautiful voice over here that's telling me not to give up, that they're here for me, and it was a beautiful thing. But when I was in my coma, I had the most fantastical journey. It was indeed a journey, and it's really weird because some of the things that I encountered, that I did, um, have come to light in some way or another. This was 2008, so they were building the new AT&T Stadium,
Mm-hmm.
and for some reason, I had a dream that I got invited to. Had no idea. It wasn't even completed yet, but I got invited to a big football party. It was a generic football party. But when I got there, I was allowed to kick a field goal. And when I did, my right foot flew off, which was the foot that was amputated. And it was snowing and there was ice falling off of it, kind of like the 2011 Super Bowl that happened. And there was another part where I was journeying through things. I used to work at a lot of golf courses, and I was at this particular golf course, and they took me out back, and it was this really pretty kitchen and back patio area, and I was talking to people, and they were asking me where I was going and what I was doing, and it was all journey related. Well, my husband had a house built for us, and that kitchen and back patio is exactly what I dreamed, and this is a custom house that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
And little things like that. I was like on a journey in Fort Worth. I remember I was on a bus and I just had to find this jazz club. And, it was like I was always searching for something. But then it came to a point to where I was like in a dentist office and I was strapped down to the dentist chair. And I hate going to the dentist. So it's a true, genuine fear of mine. And I'm in this dentist chair and I'm strapped down. And there are people who are just doing poking me and prodding me and doing experiments on me. And they're telling me that no one wants me, no one loves me. And when they're done experimenting on me, that they're going to shove me down this garbage chute over here. And they point to it. And there were times like when I came out of my coma, I was strapped down to the bed because my mom was like, girl, it was sometimes like you were literally fighting the devil. And they had to strap you down because you were pulling, tubes out and you were pulling IVs out and you were struggling and you were fighting. And so they just, strapped me down. But I remember being strapped down to this chair and I started struggling because I was like, no, it's not going to end like this. I don't want it to end like this. It can't, this is not the way that it's supposed to be. And I'm struggling and I'm fighting and, it felt like forever. But then someone comes to me and they had a newborn baby in their arm and they said, okay, you've proven to us that you want to stay. We're going to let you live. And when they find you, we want them to find this baby with you. And they put a newborn baby in my arms, kind of like a rebirth. And so from that point, everything kind of just, I went from holding this baby, being strapped down to a chair, almost, dying, to being in this beautiful, grand hotel lobby. Just think, opulent but simple, beautiful. Mm-hmm. These staircases. The room was round, but there was no walls to it, and it was beautiful and perfection, and kind of hard to describe with mere words how beautiful it was. And so I'm standing there, and I notice that I'm in this dress that I wore to my mom's wedding when she got married for the second time, to my stepfather Danny, who was brutally killed in front of her, and my mom had her own issues with God and being mad at him. But so I look down and I have this dress on that I wore in my mom's wedding, and it's beautiful. It's this beautiful purple deal. It's got this little flared collar. Mm-hmm. And I look down and I'm like, oh. And then I look around and I see other people, and we are just ascending. We're aware of each other, but we're not talking to each other. We are still in this tube that has no walls. It was so peaceful in this tube. And, you see old people, young people, mothers, fathers, grandfathers, children, and we're just going, and it's beautiful. And you feel so peaceful, and you start to forget all the problems and the troubles that are up underneath you, and you're just like, woohoo, this feels good. This feels better than anything that I've ever felt in my whole life. This is so cool. And so I got up to, you're in this tube and it's pitch black, but you can still see. Weird, right? So you get up there and you start to, I saw like this ledge, like the hole opened up, or the tube opened up, and there was this ledge, and there was just this beautiful white light everywhere, but it just got brighter a little bit further down that way. And as I came up out of the tube, I just heard a voice that said, do you want to go or do you want to stay? And I was like, maybe I'll go back. Maybe I'll go back, because I wasn't thinking about my daughter. I wasn't thinking about anything else. It was just an internal thought. It didn't have anything to do with anything else on the planet. Do I want to go back? Am I capable? Am I ready? Or do I just need to stay up there with him and let him take care of me in that eternal way? But I was like, yeah, I'll go back.
So you didn't see him, you just heard the voice?
I heard the voice. It was like this beautiful, like I could see the voice. I know that that's hard to picture. I could see the voice coming from this bright light. Couldn't see him. I could see the voice. And so as I started to descend and go back down, there's still people going. And I go back down. And so, like I said, I likened it to a beautiful hotel lobby. So I go to these front doors, and it's these beautiful big glass doors. And obviously they're glass, so you can see through them. And I looked outside, and there was a bus. My dad used to drive a Trailways bus, so there was a bus sitting out there. And I could see the exhaust and the smoke coming out the tailpipe. I could see trash flying by. I could see a trash bin over here that had trash falling out of it. I could see a few people, walking around. And I stopped, and I was like, I don't want to go back out there. I've changed my mind. I don't want to go back out there. And so I started to ascend again. And I got up just a little bit higher. See, I'm one of them people, I will ask God, give me a sign. And he will wrap it up and put a bow on it, put it right in front of me. And I'm like, is that the right sign? Is this the sign I'm supposed to be looking for? Maybe you need to give me another one. He literally has to take that sign and sometimes smack me with it. But so I start to ascend for the second time, and I get up there, and I go just a scooch higher. I can see brighterness, and I can see indescript activity going on back here, but I saw the voice again. And it was, almost like a parent's like, look at here, little lady. But he said, do you want to go or do you want to stay? This is your choice. I was like, okay, I want to go, which was a harder choice than staying. Because, when you're with him, everything is, perfect's not even the correct word for it. When you're down here, it's sometimes a struggle. But I made the choice to come back. So I come back down, and I go back to the doors, look outside again. There's the bus, the exhaust, trash flowing around, and I'll walk outside. Now, I grew up in a small town, but I discovered funk music because there's only so much hillbilly yeehaw stuff you can handle. So I love James Brown and Aretha Franklin, and they were standing at the bus by the doors telling me to come on. And so I hop up on this bus, and it's just a bus, but there are people. There are people in all the rows. I know them, but I don't know them. It's like faces that I've seen throughout my life. And there was a voice in the back that said, are you truly ready to come back? And I said, yes. And all of a sudden, the bus, the ceiling of it, there was all these little twinkle lights, and they were different rainbow colors. And they went to this vibrant, white, hot light. And I looked up into it, and it formed a vision of my face, and I was sucked into it. And as soon as I did that, I woke up. I'm strapped to a bed. I'm being shoved into an MRI tube. I've got tubes coming out everywhere. And I was like, I remember, I couldn't speak because, I was intubated. Like I said, tubes everywhere. But I just remember going, uh-oh, I made a mistake.
I made a mistake.
I don't like this at all. And so I come out, and so I start struggling, and they have to drug me and push me back through the MRI tube. But it was a week. And then I would have all these other, once I came out of the coma, these other little strange things. My daughter was, she was only 15 at the time, but I'd had such a vivid dream that she went off to college, and I wasn't allowed to tell her bye or say anything to her. And so I'm asking about her, and everyone's like, your daughter was just here. She's got to go, to viola rehearsal. And it just took a while, that week after I came out of my coma, when I was in the hospital, and I'm still tubed and intubated, and I'm hungry, and they're just feeding me brown goo through this tube. And you got doctors coming in, poking on you every once in a while, and then you have to have I was in the coma for 3 weeks in the hospital. So about a week and a half in my house, 3 weeks in the hospital. My muscles had atrophied. I couldn't, luckily I was being fed with goo because I couldn't move anything. And so they started slowly taking things out. I remember once when I came out of the coma, this nurse came in and she stripped me down and she was giving me a sponge bath, and then she left me there for 2 hours. And I can't say anything, I can't cry out, and she comes back in and I'm crying, and she was like, "What are you crying for?" And I was like, "Ooh, girl."
If I could jump off this bed.
Exactly. But it was like, you just lay there, and then you're like, it could be worse. It absolutely could be worse. So that first week out of out of the coma, I was still on dialysis because they were telling my mom now she's going to need a kidney transplant, or she's going to be on dialysis for the rest of her life because, like I said, my muscles had atrophied. I had sepsis. A couple other organs had begun to shut down. But my mom, the crazy Cajun, God love her, her and all the other people, I give the doctors their props, but it was God that pulled me through this, because after a week, I was on dialysis every day. Couldn't move. My mom would come in and just sit there with me, and we'd watch The Price is Right and things like that. And so, once I started removing, girl, if you've ever had a breathing tube or know anyone who has, and you see them on TV, and you're like, oh, they're so cute. This nurse came in one day. She's like, okay, we're going to remove your breathing tube. She put me in a headlock, and she put her finger in through like this and was like, it was like this. It was crazy. So, so then they took out, the feeding tube, and still on dialysis. Again, telling my mom, plot coffin, or not plot coffin, but get her. She's gonna need a kidney transplant. We need to get her on a list, or maybe we need to start checking for you. And of course, there's my mom. She's like, she could have this one. Just cut me open, take it. So I get out of, go back to my doofus ex-boyfriend who comes in there, and he tells them that I'm a humongous IV drug user, and that's why my toe was so screwed up. It's because I was injecting drugs, into my feet, even though nothing else anywhere else. And I'd previously gone there, for work for, drug tests, and I was like, so I get out of intensive ICU, and I'm just in like regular ICU, and this nurse, God bless her, she was from Minnesota, I think, and she comes in, she's like, oh no, did they have to chop your foot off because of all the drugs you did? And I was like, you're number 2 on the list, lady. Because at this point, because my muscles had atrophied, when they bring you food, I couldn't eat it because I couldn't hold a fork, I couldn't hold a spoon, I couldn't hold a hairbrush. Oh, girl, and it had been like a month and a half since I had bathed in any type of way, so I was kicking. But they would bring me my food, and I would just have to slam my face down into it and eat around like a trough. But when Dingbat came over, she's like, oh, did they have to chop your foot off? I was like, you know what, lady, come in here and feed me. I mean, that's just shut up and just put food into my mouth. And so my doctor, the one who kept telling my mom, get me a plot in a coffin, I was going to die, he was mad because he was proven wrong. Okay? He's one of those doctors. So within a week of coming out of my coma and being on dialysis, the doctor comes in, they're hooking me up for dialysis again. He comes in and he tells them, stop. She doesn't need dialysis anymore. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? And they're like, her kidneys went from like to, back up to 85%, and they're just getting better and better and better. She doesn't need dialysis, and she's not going to need a transplant anymore. And everyone was like, what? And me and my mom were like, you know what? Thank you all, but God did all this one. He's not going to give me more than I can handle. I mean, I got butt ugly feet anyway. It's okay. One has to go away because, it's good. Now my feet are just half as ugly. And so.
Now, wait a minute, Billie, because I seen you in person and you were standing up and you were walking, but I didn't notice anything with your foot.
Yeah, it's a prosthetic. It's a fake one.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, okay. Because I'm like, what she keeps saying amputated?
I
Like, I'm like,
know,
she
right?
has her feet.
Yep. It's, that I got taken really good care of. I'll get to that part of the story because it's absolutely beautiful. These people who help take care of people. But in between that, after I got out of the hospital, so I got out of, came out of the coma. A week after that, I got out of the intensive ICU, and so that was a week. Took everything out. Kidneys get to go back up. I get to eat food, and they think maybe one of the reasons, because whenever I was still intubated and all that, this lovely nurse, she gave me a little teddy bear with a little angel pin on it that I slept with every night. She would sneak me. It was these little foamy things. I don't know what they use for them, but she would dip it in like super sweet tea and like stick it in between my tube and my mouth and just let me suck on it because she was really sweet. And, it was so good and so delicious. That might have messed with my levels a little bit, but they took me off of all that, put me into kind of like just a regular, it was somewhere between a regular room and an ICU room. But, they were coming in pricking my fingers because, I don't know, for some reason, since I was an amputee, like, oh, it must be diabetes. And I was like, it was a spider bite. And another reason, I really was about to go see someone. The internet wasn't what it is today back in 2008. And I'd been doing research, and I finally found that, oh my God, I think this is a brown recluse spider bite. And I was going to go to the hospital or the emergency room the next day. It's just the infection took over so much. Like, I even almost lost my other foot from simply taking a bath and washing the infected foot and then just washing this foot, not knowing what it was. Like, they had to scrape out toes and reform my Achilles heel and stuff like that. But anyway, back to the hospital. So I'm getting ready to get out because the hospital's done all they can. Of course, I don't have insurance, so got to find somewhere else for you to go. But my primary doctor. Now, the doctor who did my amputation, he was actually a doctor who had luckily just come back from combat duty in Afghanistan. And when I came out of the coma, because my mom, God bless her, she would whisper to me, she's like, girl, you have to wake up and see how good looking this doctor is. Because he kind of looked like Mario Van Peebles Jr. So she would whisper that. She's like, girl, you have to wake up and look at this man. He's purity. He's the reason you need to wake up. But he told me, he goes, I've been in combat duty, been, sewing up soldiers. He goes, I've seen one other person worse off than you come back from something like they did. He goes, you shouldn't be here. He goes, we don't know why you survived. My heart doctor was like, you shouldn't be here. The kidney doctor, you shouldn't be here. The other doctor, you shouldn't be here. But when it came time for me to leave the hospital, they wanted me to go to a rehab facility. And I'm going to tell you and all the people that are listening, just because something has the word rehab in it doesn't mean that it is worth a sack of potatoes. There are some really awful rehab places in here, and it makes me feel really bad because I worry about our sweet older generation who are sometimes put in these places and no one checks on them and no one cares for them and no one understands the truly horrible treatment that some of these places provide. And I went to one of those. It was a place in Grand Prairie. Again, the doctor was mad that I did not die, so he's going to stick me in the worst possible rehab facility he can find. And I get in there, and like this, it was late on a Friday evening, and the ambulance they took me in was about 80 years old because it smelled like cigarette smoke and was pretty janky. So they took me to this place in Grand Prairie and wheeled me in, and it was probably the most scared I have ever been in my life being taken to this place because of the vibe. I mean, I've seen horror movies that started and always just like this. So they wheel me down to my room, and come to find out I'm in the Alzheimer's wing. So my roommate has severe onset Alzheimer's and dementia. And when I'm pushed into the room, she sits up on the bed, she flips me off, she tells me a whole bunch of lovely words, and it's not her, it's her dementia and her Alzheimer's. but I'm now roomed up with this woman. And so, at the hospital, you get great care. At this place, our beds were next to each other. We had like a curtain between us, and you had a string attached to a gator clipped to your bed that was attached to a light switch on the wall, and that was your call switch if you needed anything. So my first night I get there, and I'm wheeled into this room, and I'd been there maybe 2 hours, and I flipped on my call switch. 12 hours later, no one had come to check on me. I had to pick up my cell phone and call someone for them to call the front desk to get them to come check on me, because my muscles are still atrophied, and when you gotta pee, and they taken out all those fun tubes. So now it was a bedpan situation, and it was like the second or third day when I needed help doing that, and they were like, well, we're just going to put a diaper on you. And I'm like, I'm not incontinent. I just need some help. And, 2 days after that, some guy came in with a whole bunch of paperwork. And, I'm freshly still kind of jiggity from morphine, and they're trying to throw all this stuff at me, something about having to stay there 30 days, or I was going to have to pay $1,000 a day. And the guy was telling me that, because he asked me if my it hurt down there, and I'm like, yeah, it does hurt a little bit. And he goes, no, it doesn't. And I'm like, yeah, it does. And he goes, no, what you're experiencing is phantom pains. And I'm like, what I'm experiencing is they chopped my foot off about 2 weeks ago, and it still hurts. So, it's things like, since I was in Alzheimer's wing, they would bring the tray of food, and then they would do each other's makeup out in the hallway and leave us. You could see the food, but they wouldn't bring it to you. They would leave. Yeah. My neighbor, she was, she would do some crazy, kind of disgusting things. But again, she's not in her right mind. And they would come in and close the curtain. And, it's one of those situations where, is she hurting them? Are they hurting her? I would see them leave needles in her bed. I was there 30 days. They got me out of bed 3 times. Once was so I could go to a doctor's appointment. Once was because I finally begged them enough to where, can y'all please give me a shower? Because they said, well, we're not going to do any rehab. That's part of your name. And they're like, no, we don't have the insurance. Like, if someone was to mess with you and they would drop you or something, we just couldn't handle that. And my bed was right next to a big window. When they'd come in and shove a bedpan underneath me, I was starting to get scratches on my backs and my buttocks. And they would open the window while they were changing my bed, and, with my goodies all, here's a parking lot. And, I was like, I can't imagine how they treat people on the other wings. Because, again, like I said, this was the Alzheimer's wing. And when they did get me out of bed to take a shower, they left me naked in the middle of a room for an hour while they went put fake eyelashes on each other and makeup. And I was like, just put me next to the water. I will fling myself on the ground. Just pull myself. Just let me take a bath. And, it was 30 days after that people that I used to work with, and people started getting wind of where I was. They weren't giving me any exercise. So people would bring me little weights and like workout bands. The drawer next to my bed, I would have people bring me like protein bars and fruit and things like that, because, like I said, I wasn't eating. When they would.
So you were able to have visitors there?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm in my mind, I'm like, well, where's your mom? Like,
she was always there. She worked a lot, but she was always there with me. And other people would come see me, but they were kind of, I think, so numb to everything. And the doctor had told them this was the only place that was open and available, and you kind of believe them. And of course they kept their line of BS. She has to stay here 30 days, and then we'll release her, and this will happen. And they hadn't put in the proper paperwork. People really didn't even know I was there. When they took my stitches out, they didn't take them out correctly, because a month later, wounds opened up and stitches were coming back out. One doctor came in to look at me, and he goes, well, it looks like it's just been wrapped, so I'm not even gonna look at it. The guy who was wrapping it, when they came and literally rescued me, pulled me out, I asked for all the stuff I was taking, and I'm like, what is this that you give me? And what is this? And they would literally be like, I don't know. Oh, good luck. Hope you don't die without your aspirin regimen. And I'm like, y'all, Okay, bye. And
You've
so,
been through a lot, Billie.
well, girl, the people who came and rescued me, it was the people I used to work with at a golf course, and there's this lovely people. It's called PMR Charities. The day after they came and rescued me from this rehab center, a friend came and got me, took me out to Baylor White Scott Health in Fort Worth, where I immediately started rehab. And my rehab therapist, I love him but hate him all at the same time because I couldn't wear a shoe on my other foot because it was still kind of swollen. And, I'd wear flip flop, and one day he stepped on it and I rolled down the hill, and he laughed about that. And then he had Channel 11 come out and do a news story on me after doing all my therapy, and I got my prosthetic. He's a funny little man. He kicked me in the buttocks with his foot so I'd roll down a hill, and he's like, "Show him how you get up, Billie. You can do it." You're gonna kill you. Because when I first started therapy, he jokingly told me, I was like, "Okay, what do you want me to do when I get home?" And he goes, "Do 100 push-ups in your chair before you come back tomorrow." And I'm like, "Okay." And I come back the next day and I'm so tired. And he goes, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Those push-ups." And he was like, "Whew, I was joking with you." I was like, but I did.
Wow.
But yeah, I was without, went to therapy, learned how to get around on my crutches. I was going to doctor's appointments and parking parking garages over here and crutching to my appointments. And, once I got out of the hospital, I wasn't taking any medications. I was just going to therapy. I was taking pain pills for a little bit when I got out because I was still sore. And therapy was ruthless. But it was February 16th. Oh, and in this charity, they also got me through therapy, but they sent me to Baker Orthotics, which started fitting me for a prosthetic and got me all hooked up with one of those. I mean, they're the type of organization you'll see, like the money they raise. If someone has cancer and they need their rent paid, they'll do that. Do you need a special ramp built for your house? Let's go do that. Do you need your car payment? Do you need us to come pick you up? They're just really wonderful people who are truly, truly helpful. They're just great people.
Mm-hmm. Billie, with all the stuff that you endured after coming back, and God asks you, "Listen, do you want to stay here with me, or do you want to go back?" Have you regretted that decision?
No, I have not. Not even once, because there was my daughter, and there's this whole life that's happened to me that's so wonderful and perfect in my realm that I couldn't imagine not having it. I mean, I wouldn't have this wonderful man. I wouldn't have this path that I'm on. I wouldn't be able to be in an industry where I'm trying to help other people feel better and do better and be more connected with their health and their God. I don't regret it at all. At all. I mean, there are times where I'm like, God, this sucks. This sucks. Because there's weird things. You got like this weird apparatus on your leg, and it's got like this thick plastic thing in between it. So it gets a little squishy in the summertime. But to be honest, no. I mean, I can't. I'll try not to take days for granted. And there are times I wake up and I'm like, today is not my day. I'm just gonna get in bed, maybe watch some Jerry Springer, and just do some work on the computer. But I love life. I love it.
Mm-hmm. And through it all, and when you hear his voice and when he talks to you, what does he say to you? Because I like the fact that you're so real and you're so authentic and you are who you are. I mean, even Billie Ball, like that's a fun name. Billie Ball. And it's like, to some people you may seem like off the charts, like, wow, she's all over the place. But the thing is that he's made you and created you the way that he wants you to be, how he sees you.
Exactly.
And how he loves you. And it's very fun. And I'm sitting here having a good time because I'm cracking up because I'm like, what?
It's hard. Like we were talking a little bit earlier. I want to please him. I want to love him. I want him to love me and look at me and be like, that's a good one. I'm glad she stuck around. Because it is hard when you get inside your own head, and it's really hard when you start listening to other people as as far as your religion, as far as your own relationship with God goes. So many people are like, oh, it's a mistake if you pray this way. It's bad if you can't ask. I actually heard this once. You shouldn't ask for forgiveness because he's already died for your sins, and that just makes him re-die. And so then when you're praying, you're like, oh my God, am I killing him again? Am I supposed to pray this way? Do I pray this way? And there are times where he's just like, girl, stop letting everyone else get into your head, and let me into your head. Listen to what I say, listen to what I put into your heart, enjoy this day, and quit worrying about it. Someone once told me, because I was having a day, and they were like, he did not bring you this far to let you down. And then I was like, he's never let me down, not once. I've let myself down, I've let him down, I've let other people down, other people let me down. He has never, not once let me down. And when you think about that beautiful thing, footprints, when you didn't see the footprints, it was because I was carrying you. And I've discovered that, Jesus doesn't just walk beside you and carry you when you need it. He walks in front of you, and he is like, no, you're not messing with her anymore. And then there are times where he is proud of you, and he walks behind you, and he's like, look at her. Look at her. She's a shining example of my love and my grace and my forgiveness and my mercy.
And what path are you on now with what you're doing, regarding your company CBD to help other people heal and become whole on your journey?
Well, it's amazing. When I got my prosthetic, I started working for the Texas Rangers baseball club as a tour guide. And my doctor was like, are you crazy? Girl, sit down, count some money. And I'm like, no, I'm tired of sitting. I need to get up. I need to move. I need to use my body and not let it deteriorate anymore. And oh shoot, I'm sorry. Where was I going with that? I was just so excited. Where was I going with that? What was the question?
What the path that you're on now, helping people with your business, CBD.
Gotcha.
Speak a little bit about that and how you're helping to heal others.
Well, once all this happened, I had my first panic attack. I don't know if you've ever had a panic attack. I've heard of panic attacks. I've seen people have them. And, there were times where I was like, what's the big deal? Until you have one on your own and you're like, oh my God, this is the big deal, because it's like you're dying inside and no one can help you. There's nothing anyone can do. You want them to help, you want them to leave you alone all at the same time. So my doctor prescribed me some anxiety medicine, and I started taking it, and I noticed that I was just kind of dull, it took my edge off. And then I got to where I was counting them and making sure that I had enough pills to get me through to my next prescription. And, back in the day, I might have partaken in cannabis, but I just knew that I wasn't feeling right and I wasn't feeling myself. And so I started doing some research through amputee groups and them talking about CBD and how it helps with the phantom pains and the sciatica and all these weird things. And I started researching it, and I'd been with the Texas Rangers for about 9 years, and it was getting very corporate-y. They were getting the new ballpark, and everything is very bougie and very, and I just like baseball, and I love kids, and I like families when they come out there, and I just like that whole family and just fun atmosphere, and I don't like meetings about meetings and spreadsheets about spreadsheets about spreadsheets. And I was losing myself again, and I'd been talking to God about it, and he kept telling me to quit, but I wasn't listening. Is one of the things he had to take that sign to be like, schmack, schmack, schmack. So I was on my 12th boss in 9 years, and I'd gotten a new prosthetic, and I needed to take some time off to go get it worked on. So I took the next day off. Girl, again, when God wants you somewhere, he's going to do whatever it takes to make sure you are right there at that point for you to get what you need to get. And so I took the day off, was walking through my bedroom, coming back from my appointment, and I heard, coming up next on Fox 4 News, the DFW Academy of Cannabis Science. And I was like, what? It's illegal. I know it does some benefits, but how is this even possible? So I sat there and watched the story, looked up some information, And me and my husband had been talking for quite some while that, cannabis is going to be the next, oil rush, gold rush. It's going to be amazing for this country if we can get some of these greedy, corrupt, old school politicians out of the way. Because when you look at this plant, look at Genesis 1:29. It's right there. God doesn't make mistakes, and I'm living proof of that. I am not a mistake. I am worthy to be here. Everything God puts on this planet is here for a reason. This plant, the research that's been done on it to show how you produce things in your body, anandamide and 2-arachidonal 2AG. Those are endocannabinoids, and there's this beautiful plant that's perfect as long as man doesn't screw with it too much, that you can put into your body that's going to help homeostasis. I'm not a doctor. I've just done tons of research, and I've talked to doctors and scientists to where we've seen how THC in concentrated doses, I'm not talking about sitting around and smoking it. I'm talking about utilizing it as a medicine, taking the medicine from it, concentrating it, putting it into a person. We've seen it eat cancer, not the healthy cells around it, just cancer. Why is cannabis so demonized? It's because of, the propaganda that started in the 1930s, a bunch of rich, racist white men who didn't want to lose any of their chunk of change, and they're going to use this plant and use our brothers and sisters of color to demonize it. And therefore, because back then we didn't have internet, we couldn't talk. All you had was what you were shown. William Randolph Hearst owned every paper, and whatever he said, oh my gosh, oh look, this demon plant, the devil's lettuce, the jazz cab is just going to get me. And so, like when I ask people what letter in the alphabet comes after D, everyone goes E. And I'm like, how did you know that? Because that's what you were taught since you were this little. Just like we've been taught, the DARE program, with those posters, like you got your powdered sugar and that's cocaine because that's bad. Yes, cocaine is bad. Intravenous drugs, heroin's bad. Cannabis is not bad. It's a beautiful medicine that has been shown, not in the United States, because again, when it becomes totally legal in the United States, big pharmaceutical companies stand to lose billions and billions and billions of dollars. And it's not like in 2008 when Pfizer had to pay a $2.8 billion settlement because one of their drugs made people's skin fall off. They made the skin fall off. But Pfizer's like $2.8 billion to them is nothing because of all the money that they make. And so, but when cannabis is truly, when people are educated about it, what it does, what it can be used for, the difference between hemp and cannabis, these politicians and these big pharmaceutical companies that have been pushing these opioids down our throats and opioids for opioid addiction and, oh, you've got opioid constipation, well, here's another opioid. And it's like, oh, you got anal leakage, well, here's another pill for that side effect. It just keeps going and going. Mm-hmm. And we've seen people who do get on cannabis get rid of 4-10 prescriptions. It's absolutely amazing what this plant can do. And not just talking about cannabis and, the THC and the bzzz when you smoke it, because basically when we were talking about cannabis, it is grown for recreational use or medicinal use. You can use it to feel good or you can use it to feel good. But when we're talking about hemp, so much can be done with hemp. This beautiful plant that grows in 3 to 4 months. Way long time ago, they were already making paper out of it. You can make rope. You can make fine linen. You can make overalls out of it. You can build a house. Hempcrete is going to be the next big thing. And if we can show like some of these communities that are underserved how to use hempcrete and these hemp products, but that's one of the things the government and big business is scared of us starting to talk and help each other and show people a way that they can help each other and help communities, and for us all to get together and love each other as opposed to being like, no, this is mine and I'm not going to let you have any of it. We want it. Yeah. We want it everywhere.
Yeah. So obviously you use the CBD and you've come a long way from that spider bite and to where you are, because like I said, I've met you in person and I would never have known all of this that you shared today of what happened to you. And God can use anyone that he chooses. And I was having dinner yesterday with a girlfriend of mine, a sister friend of mine, and her family and her friends. And we were talking, and God was all in the midst of the conversation and everything that he was doing and wanted to do in that moment. And I was telling them that, it's now the time where God is going to use and choose whomever he wants to, and it's not going to look like how you think it is, all packaged up.
Exactly.
And either you're going to have a spirit of discernment to really see from the spiritual side of it versus the physical and looking at the outside appearance of man, but God is raising up women and men who are not going to look like what you think it should be or how they should talk and how they should sound and anything like that. And God can definitely use anyone that he chooses to. And so with what you're doing and all the things that you encountered, I just want to say thank you for being who you are, because we all try to have a facade, and God is doing away with that. Just like when Jesus came the way he did, and the Pharisees and the Sadducees didn't accept him, they rejected him because he didn't come all dialed up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
doing my hair, putting on a pretty dress and all that. But, God sees our heart. And, it's like there's a church right around the corner and they go in looking beautiful and come out looking beautiful. But once they hit the public road, they're like speeding, flipping you off. And I'm like, God can see you acting like this outside this beautiful house over here. Okay. He sees you. He sees you all the time. And, just for a while I had to get off. I try not to watch the news unless it's the weather. I try not to get on Facebook too much because sometimes it's so counterproductive to, I think, what God wants us to do. He wants us to feel good and do good and be good. And there's so much negativity that these days I search out goodness. I want to see it. I want to feel it. I want to remember that there is more good than bad in this world. We are just unfortunately bombarded with all the bad. And it just hurts my heart sometimes. It hurts my heart.
Okay, Billie. So we're about to transition with the fire rapid questions.
Okay.
And so I'm about to ask you the first question. What is your favorite verse in the Bible?
Ooh, man, that's a good. I love the whole book of Matthew. Whenever I'm feeling, I don't know, overwhelmed by the world, I just sit down and read that because it's very uplifting. It's very motivational. It makes me realize that God is in charge, but he still loves me and wants me to be happy.
Number 2, how do you get into the presence of the Lord?
Whew. I get into the presence all the time. Like when I'm driving, there have been times where I've just pulled off to the side of the road and I'm like, God, this day is so beautiful. I can't even stand it. Thank you. When I'm sitting outside in the backyard, when I'm sitting on my bed and I'm with these beautiful animals that God has blessed me with, when I watch my husband sleep, when my daughter calls me, when I get to hug my mom. I mean, I want to be in that presence all the time because I know literally even the dandelions on the side of the road are because of him. And I need to recognize and appreciate that.
Number 3, what do you think heaven will be like?
Woo! Girl. I don't want to be flippant and I really don't, but I want it to be, our families, our friends, our animals. I want it to be, I don't even know what I want it to be because I don't think my brain, even though I saw the edge of it, I don't think there's any way that my brain can possibly comprehend how beautiful and perfect it's going to be. Because here on this planet, we have, bad days and good days. But even on my best day, it's going to be so much better. It's going to be just so much better.
Number 4, who would you like to meet in heaven? It could be from the Old Testament or New Testament.
Job.
Job. And number 5, given the opportunity where you're in a quiet, intimate setting and it's just you and God manifests himself to you face to face, what would you say to him?
That even though I'm so unworthy of his love and goodness, that I love him so much. And those mere words aren't nearly enough to let him know what I feel. And that I just hope he can look in my heart and see what I truly mean and what he truly means to me.
And the bonus question, and I think I've asked you this earlier before, that with all the things that you've gone through, and of course you don't know what lies ahead of you, would you still continue to be in a relationship with him? Is he still a good father?
Woo! Yes, 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 yes. I can't. I feel incredibly bad for people who don't believe. I'm like, I don't see how you can't walk outside and as simple as see the birds, see the shape of the trees. The fact that I want to pick up this cup right here and take a swig, that came from somewhere. That came from somewhere so almighty and so powerful that the way everything works together, me and you meeting, the way my grass grows. If I'm having car problems and I ask God to help me with it, and He puts an idea in my head and that comes to fruition. I just don't, I just really feel bad for people who don't believe. I get when people are mad at God, but people who don't believe, I don't see how you can walk around and open your eyes and within a minute not believe and not see and not feel.
Is there any final thoughts, any final words that you want to say?
I have just had the best time. It has been a pleasure. I'm so glad I finally got to come on here. I love your show. I love the opening. That is top notch. But maybe one day I can come back on, and I would love to. Like I said, if anyone ever wanted to talk about CBD or cannabis, please give them my information. I love educating people. I want people to be healthy. I want to break this stigma. I want people to be happy, and I want people to know Him.
Well, thank you so much, Billie, for coming on to the show. I enjoyed it. It was a hoot.
It was a hoot. It was a hoot, girl.
It was. And so, to those that were with us watching this, whether you watched it live or the replay, I just want to say thank you so much. And I'm definitely going to share her information regarding CBD. And hopefully, you all will do your own research with it and see the health benefits if you are suffering with health issues, and just really do your due diligence in researching it. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for sharing this, watching this, commenting this, and just really waking up with me every Wednesday and every Saturday. So I will see you guys next week with a new guest. Take care. God bless you. Bye.
Ashley, bye. God bless y'all.